Hello and welcome to this webinar. And this webinar is aimed for those customers that are still running Ubuntu 18.04 on their AWS estate. This webinar will help you to understand about Ubuntu Pro, what are your options, how you can migrate, and how you can upgrade. We have 4 speakers. I'm Khurram Khan. I'm Director of Public Cloud Sales at Canonical. We'll be followed by Lex Sandecki, who is the Product Manager for Ubuntu at Canonical. Mark Thomas is a Senior Partner Solution Architect at AWS. And Carlos Bravo is the Public Cloud Director at Canonical. We will talk a little bit about Ubuntu Pro and the developer experience, which will be done by Lex Sandecki. The Canonical and AWS partnership will be covered by Mark Thomas. Carlos Bravo will give a demo on upgrading Ubuntu LTS to Ubuntu Pro using the AWS License Manager. And then I will wrap it up with closing and the next steps. With this, I'll hand it over to Lex Sandecki for Ubuntu Pro and the developer experience.
Thank you, Khurram, and welcome everyone. I want to tell you 2 stories today. The first one is why we created Ubuntu Pro in the first place. And the second one is why you should move to Ubuntu Pro, especially if you're running 18.04 LTS on AWS. So let me start by addressing the first problem. We created Ubuntu Pro because we can see that adoption of open source in the enterprise is accelerating. And we can see that by many studies like the one I'm showing here on the slide. We can see that almost all enterprises today already use open source, and most of them want to increase their use of open source across their estates. And Ubuntu Pro is perfect candidate to help you achieve that growth in a secure and consistent way. So to allow the developers to innovate at a rapid pace, we created Ubuntu Pro. On the next slide, you can see that Ubuntu is the #1 Linux for enterprises when it comes to the operating system. You can see that there are quite a lot of different operating systems in the Linux space that you can use, but Ubuntu is consistently #1. So we are perfectly positioned to address broader issues in the open source software adoption in an enterprise. And what are those issues? On the next slide, you can see that there are a few issues that were highlighted in this study that is not, done by us. It's done by a third-party OpenLogic. And basically, they asked many of the developers, what are the key challenges that you see when using or adopting open source in the enterprise? And #1 challenge highlighted was maintaining security policies or compliance. And this is exactly what Ubuntu Pro delivers. There are also some other challenges listed here that are also tackled by Ubuntu Pro offering. So the biggest challenge that we have addressed with Ubuntu Pro is fixing software vulnerabilities. On the next slide, you can see that software vulnerabilities is actually a difficult matter. On average, there are 69 dependencies per open source project, and the average number of days that it takes an organization to fix those vulnerabilities is almost 100. And I think this is simply not acceptable. There are many enterprises that depend on open source to drive innovation, to create their products, and like running code that is vulnerable for over almost 100 days shouldn't be acceptable. Our internal KPI for fixing critical vulnerabilities is less than 24 hours, and we can deliver on that promise to many of our enterprise customers. On the following slide, you can look at Ubuntu itself, the Ubuntu LTS, which is our most famous product, and you can see the Ubuntu release schedule. So every 2 years, there is an Ubuntu LTS release that we publish to the world. It's being adopted at a rapid pace, and it's being used for hardware and maintenance updates period, so the standard support period for 5 years, after which it moves to the extended security maintenance periods for another 5 years. So you can get 10 years of coverage for security and compliance for each Ubuntu LTS with Ubuntu Pro subscription, because Ubuntu Pro subscription gives you ESM. And this way you can make sure that the coverage that you receive at the beginning is also delivered for additional 5 years after the standard security maintenance period is over. And why it's specifically important to 1804 LTS users is because this year, back in May, we stopped providing security updates, standard security updates for 1804 because it moved out of its 5 years standard support window. So now 1804, which is still one of the most used Ubuntu releases in the wild, is within extended security maintenance period, and you need to have Ubuntu Pro subscription in order to keep receiving security updates. But Ubuntu Pro is much more than that. On the following slides, you can see that it's not just about the security maintenance and compliance, but also phone and ticket support, auditing and remediation tools for hardening, such as CIS and DevSecOps, and actually more security updates than we ever provided before. If you want to see what we historically provided, on the following slide, you can see what is the promise of Ubuntu LTS. The promise is that since the launch of Ubuntu LTS, will provide security updates for this initial 5 years for the operating system itself, which consists of around 2,300 packages in Ubuntu main repository. If you move to the next slide, you can see this extra promise that I explained on the previous slide, which is ESM for the infrastructure, which gives you additional 5 years for the exactly the same scope of packages, which is this 2,300 on average per Ubuntu release. But there is much more that you can get from the Ubuntu repositories, specifically from the Universe repository, which includes a lot of the tool chains and programming languages that our customers are using. So here you can see that the infrastructure is definitely covered with our Ubuntu Pro. This is the OpenStack, the Kubernetes, the Ceph, and MAS. The Ubuntu main repository, this 2,300 Debian packages, is kernel, it's server, it's desktop, and container-based image. But there is much broader scope of applications. And if you keep going through this slide, please, you will see that I'm talking about the Universe packages, which is Python and Node.js and Java and robotic operating system, Go, Perl, and Ruby. They're all part of this, what I call the application space. And this is mostly vendorless territory, as you can see after you click next on this slide, please. So if you try to get security updates for any of these packages, you might find that there is no vendor from which you can get security updates or support, or that you need to deal with multiple vendors and none of them can provide you with a consistent set of promises, tooling, and testing for the set of packages that your developers are using on a daily basis. And this is exactly what we address with Ubuntu Pro. So on the next slide, you can see that Ubuntu Pro covers the whole scope for main and Universe, so over 25,000 packages in total for the same consistent period of 10 years of lifespan. So it really gives you the best that you can get from Canonical and the best that you can get for your Ubuntu LTS deployments on production. And on top of that, we also provide regulatory compliance for whatever regulatory compliance regime in which you might be operating. This is true for many governmental agencies in the US that need to be FedRAMP, NIST, or DISA stick compliant. This is also true for healthcare, SOX, PCI DSS, financial sector, and so on. So whatever your compliance regime requires you to follow, Ubuntu Pro can help you achieve that by providing certified tooling for hardening, certified modules for achieving FIPS requirement for your kernel and OpenSSL and many other modules that we offer to our Ubuntu Pro customers. With that quick introduction to Ubuntu Pro, let me hand you over to Mark Thomas from AWS to give you a perspective from his side.
All right, thanks, Lek. It's very exciting to hear about all of the things that are going on with Ubuntu Pro, and I'm continually amazed by the extent of the coverage that you're providing now with the ESM for applications, the coverage for everything that's in the Universe repository, and all of those security issues that are just a real headache to deal with from a system administration perspective, that you're taking all of that heavy lifting on for Ubuntu Pro. That's very amazing. And you know, I'm very excited to continue talking about that. My name is Mark Thomas. I'm a partner solution architect with Amazon Web Services, and I have the privilege of working on all things Ubuntu on AWS. It's a partnership that's been going on for a number of years now, and I've seen it expand a lot over the last few years. Take on a number of new products that have been launched from, with in addition to the Ubuntu server and Ubuntu minimal images, we have Ubuntu Pro, container images, the Anbox cloud appliance, and also desktop that I'm going to talk a little bit more about. It covers the AMD 64 and Graviton architectures, keeping everything up to date with the latest patches and keeping all the images up to date. There's a lot of work that's been put in by the Canonical team on a daily basis. And of course, Ubuntu, it's very popular with AWS customers, just like Lek was talking about how popular Ubuntu is. That's true on AWS as well. And Ubuntu is wanted by customers on all major instance families and most instance types. And we're continually releasing new integrations with new AWS services and existing AWS services every year. I threw this together very quickly just to kind of give an overview of some of the areas where Ubuntu and AWS are working together on integrations. This is by far not an exhaustive list, because last year I had the privilege of speaking at the Ubuntu Summit on integrations between AWS and Ubuntu, and it was difficult to enumerate them all just in the 30 minutes that I was given. So I'm not going to try and do that here. Just wanted to highlight some of the major areas from the compute and container images. We talk a lot about EC2, and of course, those Ubuntu images contain, and those images are optimized for Amazon, and the kernel that's on those is a specific AWS optimized kernel that's designed to take advantage of the infrastructure here. We also have a number of developer tools and system management and security with System Manager. Machine learning, we don't have Ubuntu Pro there, but the AWS Deep Learning AMIs, a lot of those are built directly on Ubuntu. And of course, desktop and the Amazon Workspaces family. I'm just going to call out here, if you are running Ubuntu desktop in your network, for your employees, your developers, or you want to be running Ubuntu desktop, definitely check out the Ubuntu Pro on Amazon Workspaces. All of the Ubuntu images on Workspaces, those are Ubuntu Pro, so those contain all of the benefits that we've been talking about for Ubuntu Pro. It's very excited to be part of that. So this year we also launched a new way to use Ubuntu Pro on EC2, and that is subscription included. A couple of the benefits that you can see an example there. It's listed right on the EC2 console, very easy to find. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I wanted to call out one of the benefits here, other than, you'll see simplified billing as a result of having the subscription included with your EC2. One benefit I wanted to call out is that Ubuntu Pro is now eligible for compute savings plans. It's already priced lower than a lot of the other operating system offerings, but now you can take advantage of even more savings by taking advantage of savings plans. Something else that was launched this year is the ability to migrate your Ubuntu instances to Ubuntu Pro without redeploying. Previously, with previous releases, if you launched from the Ubuntu from the AWS Marketplace, we didn't have a good mechanism for you to move you to Ubuntu Pro without terminating and redeploying the instance. And that's, for obvious reasons, that's a bit of a headache for some people. Canonical provided a workaround here for customers, but we've got something that's much easier now, and that's the ability to migrate from Ubuntu to Ubuntu Pro, attaching that subscription through the AWS License Manager. You can do this with just a single reboot. and it's the very clear documentation, very easy to follow process. Your instances come up, they'll have the Ubuntu Pro subscription, and they'll have access to all of the great features that we've been talking about. Carlos Bravo is going to do a demo and show you some of this process in a little bit. So I won't spend a great deal of time on that, just to say that this has been very popular with Ubuntu users, AWS customers who are needing to move to Ubuntu Pro. It's not just intended for a stopgap measure, of course, for your 1804 instances, but this is the place where customers are feeling the most pressure to get off of those older releases and get into a supported place from a security perspective. So don't spend a great deal of time. We're here just to say 1804 LTS. If you need that security coverage, you need that compliance, that you want to take advantage of the AWS License Manager and move to Ubuntu Pro as quickly as possible. If you need help doing that, if you've got an AWS support plan, contact AWS, contact Canonical, reference all of the really good documentation. It's not really that complicated a process. Of course, when we talked about the ESM coverage for needing for the older releases and needing that additional protection, but there's a lot more to Ubuntu Pro. Lek talked about it. Just want to call out some of the benefits here on AWS. You can take your Ubuntu Pro images, you can include them with your auto scaling groups to make sure that you've got that that protection in a scalable way, and scale your environment up or down with that coverage from ESM apps. Again, one of my favorite features, have that coverage across all of your open source applications and libraries. Kernel livepatch for those times where you don't want to do a rolling update and take your instances down, or you have a situation where you're not able to use auto scaling. You don't want to reboot right away to deal with that kernel CVE that was just announced. You want to wait for a more convenient maintenance window, take advantage of kernel livepatch. If you want a more complete security picture, Ubuntu Pro does integrate with Amazon Inspector, as does Ubuntu. You get those security the security vulnerabilities reports come directly from the Ubuntu security team. Amazon Inspector will show you the patches that you need. You can even do automated scheduled patching with Amazon's Systems Manager, the SSM Patch Manager. Just one quick comment here. Don't want to spend a great deal of time on this. We've talked a lot about compute and EC2. Ubuntu Pro is available for containers as well. You can run Ubuntu Pro on your container hosts and your container images. We don't really have a lot of time to go into that today, but there's a lot of great documentation that's been put out by Canonical, a lot of good demos, many of them written and produced by Carlos Bravo. So go online and check those out. Maybe if there's interest, we can do some upcoming talks on a future webinar. But speaking of Carlos, I'm going to go ahead now and turn this over to him for a demo of some of the things that we've been talking about. Again, it's been a privilege to be here with the folks from the Ubuntu team, all of the great folks from Canonical and from the Ubuntu community. Real privilege to be here working to make this a better experience on AWS. So thanks for including me. Go ahead, take it away, Carlos.
Thank you, Mark. Now is demo time. In this demo, I will show you two things mainly. One is how running Ubuntu 18.04 today looks like from the optics of a security tool. We are going to use Amazon Inspector, which is available on AWS for everyone, and it's a tool that you can use for scanning for vulnerabilities on your machines. The second objective, of course, is to show you how easy it is to upgrade any Ubuntu LTS machine for every version and architecture to Ubuntu Pro using AWS License Manager. And since the complete process takes a while, I prepared a video to skip waiting times for you. Okay, so this is my Ubuntu 18.04 machine. It has Node.js, MongoDB, and Nginx installed. So let's see some details about this instance. And you can see here that it is an Ubuntu Bionic 18.04 official image. Everything has been updated. And let's go to Inspector to see what it says. Let's click here by instance. And immediately you can see that there are a lot of vulnerabilities affecting the machine. 2 critical, 52 high, which is not acceptable for production. You may be wondering, maybe this machine hasn't been updated in a while. So let's go back to EC2 and see what we can get from the console. Okay, so I'm going to connect to this machine using Session Manager. Now we're going to run a full update. Okay, and you can see here that all the packages are up to date, meaning that I'm not receiving any single update for this machine. In case you are wondering if there is any way to see if there is any available update for you on ESM repositories, we can use the Pro tool by running Pro security-status. And here you will have a lot of information about the packages installed, but also from ESM infra, how many packages you have pending. We have 77 here. And same from ESM apps, which is a universal repository. We have 5 pending security updates. So let's go back to Inspector. I would like to show you one additional thing. In Inspector, you can also browse all the CVEs that are affecting your machine. You can see the description, the CVE number, the criticality, but also it shows you the version of this package where the fix is present, and it is hinting us that it is on ESM. So this means that we need to convert this instance of Ubuntu to Ubuntu Pro. Let's go back to EC2. In order to convert the instance to Ubuntu Pro using License Manager, we need to stop the machine first. Let's click here and stop it. All right, now that the machine has stopped, let's launch License Manager because we need to do a license type conversion here. The source is an Ubuntu LTS instance. We have it here on the list. We click Next. The destination license is Ubuntu Pro. Next, and convert. Okay, now the process has started. It could take 20 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video for saving some time. Okay, now the conversion process has finished. We have an Ubuntu Pro machine, but first we need to start the machine because it will end up in the same state we left it. So we started the machine. We need to give it some time. Okay, now that the machine is running, you can see, for example, here at platform details that this is an Ubuntu Pro Linux machine. And let's connect to it using Session Manager. All right, and let's write Pro status. Here we will get all the services that we have entitled and the ones that are active, which is ESM in this case. So let's run an update. Let's see if anything has changed now. So if you see here, we have 82 packages that can be upgraded. It's a big difference from the previous run. Let's do an upgrade.
Okay, the update has finished. Now we should go back to EC2, and since there was a kernel update, I need to reboot it. All right, the machine is now running, and just double checking. Okay, let's go to Amazon Inspector now. Let's click here by instance. And immediately you can see that we still have the same or even more vulnerabilities being reported, but this is because we haven't given it the time to do the rescan of the machine. So let's go back here to this screen, and we will wait for a little bit. Okay, here we are back at the console. So we are going to reload it. And okay, wow, we can see now that we have 0 vulnerabilities affecting this machine by just upgrading to Pro.
Thank you, Carlos, for that lovely demo. So if you're still running Ubuntu 18.04, what are the options that you have? There are two main options. You can migrate to a later version, 20.04 or 22.04. Both of them are available on the AWS console as well as in the marketplace. You can move to a Pro version or you can move to an LTS version. Or you may upgrade your current 18.04 LTS to secure it till 2028 and convert it into a Pro machine. How do we do that? To upgrade to Ubuntu Pro, you have, again, two options. You can do an in-place upgrade using AWS License Manager. This was exactly the demo which Carlos just showed you. And you can go to AWS License Manager as of today and get it done. Or you can buy Pro tokens from Canonical and apply them to existing machines. In order to buy them, you can contact us and we can help you to purchase those tokens. And you can do that through the AWS Marketplace as a private offer. You also have options to add support, which is phone and ticket support, either weekday support or 24/7 support. And you can do that both on metered as well as tokens. I want to talk to you about a couple of success stories and customers that are already using this. We had an American company that is a customer engagement and loyalty platform company, and they decided to go the in-place upgrade route, and they went Ubuntu 18.04 to Pro in-place upgrade using AWS License Manager. They first started with a few dev instances, and then they moved the entire production workload, which is more than 4,000 instances, to Ubuntu Pro. The advantage for them was that they get to continue to use 18.04 for a longer period of time, as well as get patch updates from the universe. We're going to then talk about a social media company, again, based in America, and they brought tokens through the AWS Marketplace in order for them to have expanded support and maintenance on the 18.04, so they continue to receive patch updates. Both of them were through the AWS systems, but the advantage for either of them is that you also get access to the EDP spend if you have EDP with AWS. So any of the customers that have enterprise discount plan, they can continue to get pay for Ubuntu Pro through the marketplace and get benefit from that. So are you ready to learn more? We'll be there at reInvent from November 27 to December 1st in Las Vegas. And if you are planning to be at reInvent, please come and visit us, have a conversation with us. And there's some very cool swags that you can also get from us. You can visit us on our Pro webpage, or get in contact with us. Email us at aws@canonical.com. Carlos and my emails are also attached out here, so please feel free to reach out to us. And with that, thank you for listening, and we'll open up for questions. All right. We see a few questions that have already come through. I'm gonna try and see if we can go through those questions, right? So the first question was, does Pro provide patches to all CVEs detected? Carlos?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because in the demo we saw that after upgrading to Pro, we got resolved all the CVEs pending, but this is not always the same case, because what we do is we provide security patches for critical and high vulnerabilities. I mean, what I'm saying is that whenever there is a CVE that gets to our to our knowledge, we do an assessment, and if it's high or critical, we automatically patch it in normally 24 hours. If this is a non-critical vulnerability or not high, then we do an assessment about about the impact that could be for all of our users. So normally the low, they don't get as much priority as the others.
All right. Thank you, Carlos. Another question we got is Pro for free? If not, can I pay through AWS billing? And how does that work? So Pro is not free. Pro, because we are doing a lot more stuff and giving you expanded support for 10 years instead of 5. We give you a patching not only for existing Ubuntu main, but also for the universe. So it's not a free offering. But the good news is, yes, you can pay it through the AWS billing. There's a metered billing. So basically, if you're doing the in-place upgrade, or if you are taking Pro from the marketplace or the console, you will be billed on the per hour. There's a metered basis on which it is basically vCPU-based pricing, and it is included in your AWS bill. So you don't need to do anything else. You don't need to do anything extra. It is already part of your AWS bill. It'll come as a software component on your AWS bill. As I mentioned, it also goes towards your EDP spend. In the case of if you're reaching out to us to get tokens for upgrading, you will have to pay us either directly or through the AWS marketplace, and we can work with you on either of those two options. But yeah, Pro is not free. You can pay through AWS, and the good news is metered. It is only based on the number of instances that you're using and the amount of time you're using. I'm going to go to the next question. How different is a Pro image to a regular Ubuntu one? And what is the replatforming process? I think some of this was already covered by Carlos, so I'm going to throw it back to you, Carlos, on this one.
Sure. The good thing is that Ubuntu Pro works as a subscription to your machine, so you really don't need to do anything, because, I mean, everything is compatible. You will have the same major versions of the software, the packages, so there's no big change. I mean, besides that, you will get some packages with security coverage on top of that.
All right. The next question, again, I think I'm going to throw this to you, Carlos. Can I create a golden image, or do I have to upgrade to Pro every time I launch my custom image?
So we have the two flavors. We have seen customers that they build their own golden image, and then after that, they when they are starting up the new machines, they run the update process automatically. But if you need faster response time, you can also build your golden image, upgrade it to Pro, and then take a snapshot of that image and use it as your Pro golden image in the end. That will help you, because in the end, every machine that you will spin up will also retain the Pro entitlement, and it will work as intended.
The next question is, does it make sense to upgrade to Pro if I'm running the latest Ubuntu? I can take that. So it depends, right? If you're looking only for patching for the main, which is essentially, and you're covered in within the time frame of us providing you free patches, you don't need to upgrade to Pro, right? But Pro gives you benefits for the universe and the universe packages that is available. We patch more than 23,000 packages, and it makes sense if you are using open source applications like Nginx, Node.js, Python, to take Pro and get coverage for all of those packages rather than just the main. But if you feel that you are covered in just using Ubuntu main, then you don't need to upgrade, and we are okay with that. Carlos, there's a question for you. Eager to know if there is some level of support available to 1804. I don't know what that means exactly.
I'm guessing that is phone support for 1804. So I will leave that question to you.
Okay. So if you're asking about phone and ticket support, yes, it's available, right? And we did cover it. If you're looking for any phone and ticket support, reach out to us. Emails or just simply at aws@canonical.com, and we'll be more than happy to add phone and ticket support to it as well. And you can, and hopefully that answers the question. But yeah, it's available. I think this is the last question. I'll leave it up to Carlos and Mark for both of them for their thing, but I don't know how much they'll answer this. How reliable is Ubuntu when we compare it to Kali Linux?
Since I work for Canonical, I will let Mark to respond to that.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my mute button. I am not nearly as familiar with Kali in situations where customers are running large deployments of that in production with mission critical workloads. I can tell you that AWS customers, that Ubuntu is a very popular choice for large workloads of all kinds, from IoT applications to web applications. There would be too many to cover here, even if I were to start giving you specific customer examples. But we consider Ubuntu an enterprise grade OS, or I can say, I personally, speaking from my experience with it, consider it enterprise grade. When you add the FIPS support from Ubuntu Pro on top of that, you're looking to be able to check the box for a number of different compliance requirements. And Karim, I don't know if you want to touch on all of the different compliance the certifications that Ubuntu Pro has, but Ubuntu in general is a rock solid OS, as no OS is without issue, which is why it's great that Canonical stands behind it and releases fixes new versions of the kernel and security fixes as issues become identified. But Ubuntu it's got a long track record. It's got a massive community, and it's rock solid. And as far as providing a comparison to the other, my experience doesn't extend to that, but I can say that we're at AWS, Ubuntu is very popular.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I think I want to go back to one of the questions that somebody asked was, does it make sense to upgrade to Ubuntu Pro if I'm running the latest Ubuntu? And I gave one of the answers was yes, if you're using the patches, right? However, one other thing which I forgot to mention out there, and Mark really brought it up, is about the compliance. Like if you're using anything on the government workloads like FIPS, DSSTake, and CI's hardening, you would like to go and do Pro because that's not available on Ubuntu LTS. So yes, Pro if you're wanting to do universe patching. Yes, Pro if you're doing anything for compliance like FIPS and CIs and DSSTake. I think those were the main questions that came up. I'm going to say that if there are no more questions, we'll give it a minute for anybody to pop in any other questions that they have at the last moment. If not, thank you so much for listening to us. Hopefully this has been a learning guide for you to migrate to Ubuntu Pro, especially if you're using 1804. Remember, 1804 came to an end in April. So any patches after that is not being patched, so it's insecure, we would really recommend that you look at options to either migrate to a later version or move to do an in-place upgrade to Pro if you're running on AWS machines. If you would like to contact us, if you have volumes, if you have special requirements, if you need support, please feel free to contact us and we'll be more than happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, thank you all. Appreciate it. Appreciate Carlos, Mark, Lek, everybody else out here to make this happen. And hope to see you guys on another webinar very soon.